What's up, man? What are you guys doing today? Welcome to Bourbon and Boxing, man. I'm your host, Jeff. Didn't know you guys were there. Just down in my dungeon, relaxing, drinking a bit of bourbon on this Saturday night where we had a great week of boxing. No complaints by me at all. It started on Tuesday. Then we got a Thursday fight. We got a Friday fight. We got a Saturday fight. Can't get much better than that, right? Oh, actually, it can get better than that, guys. With a little shot of bourbon to top it all off. On top of that, it's Veterans Day, baby. So, to all the vets out there, thank you for your service to our country. Thank you for your sacrifices that you made in your lives to serve and protect us and our everyday freedoms that we enjoy here in America. And we can't forget you guys. Here's a salute to you guys, to all my friends that have served, to my grandfather who served. Thank you guys so much, man. And to Jamal Herring, who also served and got himself a win on Tuesday with a nice fight. Hey, let's take a shot for our vets. Let's take a shot to get this show started. And we're going to talk some boxing, guys. But first, we're going to drink some bourbon. Now, let's see. I'm a few shots in now. Okay. There's always a time and then I kind of mess up my episodes. But instead of me babbling on, I'm just going to go into what we saw this week. We got the week started with the fights here in the state on a rare fight on a Tuesday. We got Jamal Herring, a former vet, jumping back in the ring after back-to-back losses in his career. Looked like he was going to retire. Older guy, vet fighter, but he still has a lot to prove. Now, I said if you're a betting man, you would take Nick Molina because that's the only way you're going to make any money in the fight because Jamal Herring was that much of a favorite in the fight. And it kind of showed one round in, the stoppage hurt him early, and Nick Molina just really never recovered from a big shot to his nose that had his nose bleeding, kind of had him off balance after that. He just never was the same, and he just couldn't get in, and Jamal just attacked him immensely. He saw blood, like, a shark in water, saw that blood, and he attacked, man. Uh, and he just, sorry for Nick Molina, but it was a quick fight that put Jamal Herring's name back out there in the lightweight division to say, hey, I'm still here, man. You can say I'm old. You can say I can retire. I should retire, but they're still gas in that guy's tank, guys. So he showed a lot to us this weekend. Definitely impressed with Jamal. Let's hope and see what kind of fights he can get later in the future. He talked about Navarrete, but I don't know if he wants that, guys. He doesn't want any part of Navarrete. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a huge Navarrete fan. Jamal Herring doesn't want that. He will put you into retirement. But let's move on. Also, across the pond, you had a fight on Thursday. The UFC, I don't know if this was their first boxing promotion fight or not because Colin Walsh has 9 fights, so I don't know if they've just signed him on to fight other places. This is the first time I've heard of Colin Walsh, and this is the first time I watched him fight. He had a good fight against Ismael Villarreal, who was really tough, knocked him down in the 10th round, but Walsh got up, rallied back, and won the fight by points. Got himself a nice win. But my thing is, I think he's a junior middleweight. I don't know much about UFC promotions as far as boxing. I know they're new to the game, but I know Dana White is not new to boxing. This is where he got his start at. I don't know if it was a manager, a promoter, or what he did for boxing, but this is where he got his start at, was in boxing. So he knows the sport of boxing. My only thing is that the UFC doesn't like to pay their mixed martial arts fighters. So if you're a boxer and you're in this for the money, I don't know if the UFC route is the best route for you to go because what are you going to get paid? I mean, they don't like to pay their fighters as it is. A lot of the fighters don't make any money. So if you're in boxing, UFC may not be the place where you go when there's Top Rank and all these other promotional companies out there that are going to pay you a lot more, especially if you're a good talent. You're going to get paid money. In the UFC, we know they like to pretty much line their pockets and then throw a little bit of pennies to the fighter. So if you're a boxer, do you steer away from it knowing what their MMA fighters get paid? And I don't know if that's the same negotiation tactics that go into their boxing. We're going to pay you one set wage, and that's what we're going to pay you, and you're going to take it or leave it. In boxing, there's too many other options out there. The UFC is the top in MMA, if I'm correct, in the mixed martial arts games. They're like the big leagues. So there's not a lot of competition to them. And when there has been, that competition hasn't lasted long before they have fallen on their face and no longer exists as a company. But the UFC still exists, and they are the top of the game. So as in MMA, you don't really have a choice. In boxing, you got plenty of other choices to go make money with other promotional companies that are good, proven companies that are going to pay you. So that's the only thing I would worry about with the UFC promotional boxing thing. Are they going to pay their boxers? But outside of that, Colin Walsh, okay, he looks all right. We'll see what he can do in the junior middleweight. After seeing him get knocked down, I don't know how well he would do. So we'll see. He's still young. He's got a lot of talent. If how UFC is going to promote him, how they're going to team him up with Top Rank, how can they, can they team up with Matchroom? Can they team up with PBC? All these guys, other boxing companies to get him bigger fights, because I don't think on their own they can get him a super big fight in the junior middleweight division. But on top of that, we also had another fight over the pond on Friday night yesterday, which, of course, you guys are familiar. Anybody over in Britain is familiar with the Eubanks. And, of course, Harlem Eubank was in the ring against Timo Skorwatskavas. I'm German, so sometimes it's easier to say their names. He was in there with him. The first round looked like Harlem had taken a pretty good shot, a couple shots. And it was like, oh, man, this is going to be a fight. But then after that, it really wasn't a fight. Harlem kind of took over. It was his toughest fight to date to kind of see where he was at. He had a tough fight. He had some toughness against him. But overall, he took over and he won the fight with ease. So, with flying colors. He kind of went through the fight. When he was moving, he was landing beautiful punches. Got to the 11th round where he landed 2 knockdowns and then a stoppage in the fight to get the stoppage in the 11th round. After the fight, of course, I'm not for sure if Harlem Eubank is the son of Chris Eubank. I don't know if he's his nephew, his son, whatever he is. But I know he's a Eubank and he's related to him in some way. But after the fight, the older Eubank was there, the former fighter. He was there, and he was talking about a fight against Conor Benn. Of course, they always have the Conor's names, the Ben's name in their mouth. But they were talking about Conor Benn, and I was kind of confused because I thought Chris Eubanks was in line to fight Conor Benn. And so, but it kind of sounded like he was saying, hey, Harlem will fight Conor, whatever, but then Conor's not licensed over in Britain. So I don't know how that works. So I don't know if the Eubanks should just move on from the Conor Benn situation completely and stop in hopes of making a super fight with the Eubanks and Benns again and then making a bunch of money off that. I kind of feel like that's what that is. That's a money grab fight. Either way, on both sides, because of the names. It's going to be huge over in the UK, all that fun stuff. But I think it's just a money grab type thing for the Eubanks and for the Benns. Grab some money, big payday for that fight. However it happens with the bigger guy and Chris Eubanks, who I think stops Conor Benn, or the I don't know if Harlem's smaller or not, but he seems like he's not. I feel like Ben could take Harlem, but all right, let's move on from that. And there was another fight also over there in on the zone. It happened today. We had our fight Saturday today. What was this guy's name? Shabazz Mossad. He beat Jose San Martin. That was I don't know much. I didn't get to actually watch this fight. It was on the zone. Like I said, I have a love hate and love thing going on with the zone. I don't want to pay them $25 a month and then have to pay for pay per view at the same time. And they make every goddamn fight a pay per view fight. I mean, they literally got this uh, Ryan Garcia fight on pay per view, like then they put shit like Jake Paul and all that crap on their channel, which kind of detours me a little bit. But it had quite an undercard on it, man. Uh, this was a super bantamweight fight, and we know that super bantamweight is a pretty good division. So I don't know where these two guys stand in that division, but where Masad stands at, what he's about. But if you guys know a little bit about him, comment down below to inform me of who he is. And then I'll look up some video on him later in the week just to kind of check him out to get kind of a feel of who he is, because that super bantamweight is a good division, man. So that would be nice to add another name to that division. That might be a threat. Uh, Outside of that, man, it's not a big super name for boxing this week. There wasn't super, we've had super fight after super fight, big fight after big fight going on. So, we've been kind of spoiled. So when we get a week like this where it's kind of more laid back, I did a couple shows earlier in the week where I talked about a little bit of boxing news and stuff like that. But next week we got a huge week in boxing when we have a co-main, doubleheader co-main event going on Top Rank with the likes of Shakur Stevenson versus Del Santos, which everybody's talking about that fight, guys. They're saying that is a 50-50 fight. Every boxer that has come on to talk, every trainer that has talked about that fight is saying, look, Shakur is in for a fight. I don't know much about Dos Santos, but I have heard that he is a power puncher. He is not somebody to overlook, and he is going to be Shakur's toughest fight to date. We'll see. Shakur is on a different level. But we're also going to get Navarrete versus Conceição on the undercard. It's a co-main event between two fighters. I think this is a way for them to set up that Shakur versus Navarrete fight. I've been saying it forever. You've heard it first here on Bourbon and Boxing, guys. Don't forget that. When this fight happens, remember, there's not a single channel out there, not a single show, not a single podcast talking about the Shakur versus Navarrete fight, which would be a huge, huge fight, guys. Huge fight. No one's talking about it. But I'm telling you now, there's a reason these two guys are on the same card coming up. Navarrete is a main card guy. Shakur is a main card guy. Why would you have them both on the same card? Because you're setting up the biggest fight in 2024, guys. Shakur versus Navarrete. It's going to be the biggest fight in 2024. When it happens, if it happens earlier, mid, or later in the year, I think it happens mid-time. We'll probably get that fight, I would think, around April or May, if that fight comes along. But I'm super excited about it. I'm crosshairs on it because, honestly, I'm a huge Navarrete fan. I'm a huge, huge Shakur fan. And I've said Shakur is the face of boxing for years now. And I said he's the future face of boxing as far as the guy that's going to be, Tank Davis forbidding, whatever happens with Tank. If him and Tank ever fight, I don't really know how that fight goes either. Two really good fighters. I would favor Tank at this point in their careers, but a couple years down the road, I might favor Shakur in that fight. But right now, I'm telling you, what's coming up this week, coming up with the Shakur versus Navarrete are being on the same card. That's if both of these guys win, and they win in just absolute dominating fashion, I guarantee each one's going to call the other one out. If Navarrete beats Conceição, which Navarrete is going to beat Conceição, to me, that's a 70-30 fight in favor of Navarrete, easily 70-30, because I think Navarrete is just that damn good. He's very unorthodox, and I like Conceição, but he's a very weird fighter as far as he has the talent, but he doesn't always showcase it. He's like J.R. Wright. J.R. Smith in the NBA, right? A guy who has all the talent in the world, and one day he can look like the best out there, and the next day he looks very normal. That's Conceição. He's a good fighter when he wants to be, But then he always seems to only fight one half of a fight, guys. And that's what lost in the fight against Oscar Valdez, who I thought he was beating the brakes off of Oscar in the first half of that fight. But then he stopped fighting after the sixth and seventh round. He just thought he won the fight, so he danced around thinking that he won that fight. And then he ended up losing the fight because of that, basically, because he allowed Valdez to come back in the second half and land and be more productive and all that other fucking shit. And it lost in the fight. It kind of turned me on Concession because I don't like seeing guys do that. But this is not going to be a walk in the park for Navarrete, but at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if he just doesn't make Concession look stupid because he's that type of fighter, and it's hard to grasp what Navarrete does. He's very unorthodox, and the way he throws his punches, it's not it's not the book. It's not by the book. You know what I mean? He throws shit in a way that you're like, man, you can't throw it like that. You can't do that. Like, what the fuck? He threw that punch halfway across the ring, unguarded, all his whole guard down, just lunging, and then he lands it, and it's a devastating punch. So he's very dangerous. He's very different. And I think that's what makes it hard for anybody who fights Navarrete because he's so unorthodox. He doesn't come in with a plan. He just fights and does what he naturally does. He's good at what he does. You know, I mean, some guys just are naturally good at what they do. Navarrete is one of those guys. Shakur is one of those guys. That's going to be a fight in 2024. We're going to get to see. I promise you guys. You heard it here first on Bourbon and Boxing. Don't leave me fucking hanging. When that fight happens, be cool enough to give me a shout out. He said it was going to happen. Jeff on Bourbon and Boxing said that shit was going to happen, guys. But anyways, man, this is not going to, like I said, it wasn't a long episode. I did 2 episodes earlier this week, so, the less long the episode is, the easier it is to download and do some editing too. We'll see what kind of editing I can do. One day my sound works on my editing. The next day my sound doesn't work, so I don't fucking get it. But anyways, guys, let's take one more shot together, and then we're going to jump off here. And I'm going to call it a night for episode 29 of Bourbon and Boxing. I want to thank you guys for joining me. Check out my uh, check out my Facebook group, Bourbon and Boxing, where I update every day just about, and also subscribe and like to my show if you like what you see and you like what you hear. Also comment down below, man. Tell me what you think. Tell me what your thoughts are on the fights this week, fights coming up, all that kind of stuff. I will interact and talk with you guys. Also, thank you guys so much, man, for joining me on episode 29 of Bourbon and Boxing. I'm a little tipsy. Short and spout. Here is my handle. Here is my spout. Gonna take the shot down my throat. Thank you for joining me on my show. All right, guys. See you later, man.